Hello again and welcome to Catholic Social Teaching 101. I'm Jim Grant, the Director of Social Justice Ministry for the Diocese of Fresno, and it's my pleasure to be on this set for the 15th time. We have already covered two of our social justice principles, the life and dignity of every human being from womb to tomb, and the second principle, the call to family, community, and participation. Now, today we're going to look at the principle that Catholics and many other people deal with, which is caring for the most vulnerable, a preferential option, we call it, for the poor. In our world, there are many such people deserving of our care, but today and for the month of January, we'll also be studying and talking about the situation of refugees, global and local. On that note, I'd like to introduce our panel who are going to be sharing from their perspective what it is that they see in this issue that touches their faith and what we can do as communities of faith to respond. Our first guest is Reza Nekumanesh, the Executive Director of the Islamic Cultural Center of Fresno and one of my very, very best friends and brothers. And across from me is my Parish Life Coordinator at my parish, St. Paul Catholic Newman Center, Deacon John Supino. Glad to have you, Reza and John.
Thank you.
Reza, can you start by even setting up a little bit about yourself that as you share in this program, people will appreciate where you come from and what is Muslim faith regarding refugees?
Oh, that's a good way to start and throw me under the bus.
I did.
Salaam alaikum, peace be upon all of you. Really appreciate the chance to come here and share with you some ideas that we have, and then hopefully come with a better understanding for everybody and a plan to move forward so that we are better neighbors for our new neighbors. I'm Muslim. I'm from the Islamic Cultural Center of Fresno, and Islam is a religion that teaches acceptance and open acceptance of everybody and caring for the most vulnerable. There's a good tradition in Islamic history. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he had left from his own homeland, they left migration. They actually migrated twice. Once they went to Ethiopia to find peace under a just Christian king. But then when they went into Medina, when they left Mecca to go to Medina, so there was a mass movement of Muslims outside of Mecca, their homeland, to go towards Medina. These were called the ones who migrated, the Muhajirin. And then there were the people locally, the ones who already lived there, called the Ansar, or the helpers. And the Prophet Muhammad actually paired together those who fled and those who lived there and put them together and said, through brotherhood, you guys are going to find your way here. And we're going to create a society that's accepting of all. And through that brotherhood, create an opportunity for our newcomers, for our new friends, for our new neighbors to establish themselves in a dignified manner.
What a beautiful opening thought from Islam. John, speaking from Catholicism, where do you see the importance of this issue for us as Catholics?
Well, I take a lot of my direction from Pope Francis. I think he has made this one of the cornerstones of his papacy. And even beyond that, we've always had this preferential treatment of the poor. It should be foremost in our minds. And this issue of refugees it's come into our midst at a most important time in our world. And as I'll go on to explain in a little while, it really came to our parish, our faith community, at a most opportune moment, and we're really excited about what we're doing.
I'm so excited that in the second half of the program, we'll definitely be discussing what's going on at the Newman Center. What I'd like to do right now with our panel, if we could walk through these 9 principles of facts about refugees, we'll each read one, and we'll know that these are important things as we open our program to know what are we talking about. First fact, a refugee is someone who has been forced to flee his or her country because of such things as persecution, war, or violence. A refugee has a well-founded fear of persecution for reasons such as race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in some particular social group. So these are refugees. Now, can you tell us, Reza, how many there may be in the world at this time? What's going on right now?
Well, I have been told there are 21.3 million refugees in the world, 65.3 million forcibly displaced people in the world. Of these, a record-breaking 38 million people have been displaced within their own country as a result of violence.
These statistics we're giving you are rather stunning, and they all come from the United Nations Commissioner for Refugees. These are hard, sad facts. John, tell us about stateless people.
That there are 10 million stateless people who have been denied a nationality and access to basic human rights, education, health care, employment, freedom of movement. And that's stunning. It's an amazing figure.
And then to think the fourth number that we're going to throw at you is that every single day, nearly 34,000 people are being forcibly displaced due to conflict and persecution. Now, this is the highest level of displacement on record in history. 54% of these refugees come from 3 particular countries. 4.9 million from Syria alone. Afghanistan has needed to have 2.7 million refugees flee. And from Somalia in Africa, because this is a worldwide global issue, 1.1 million refugees are Somalian.
And where did they go, Jim?
They are going to many countries. Where are they most hosted?
So the top hosting countries, embarrassingly, do not include the United States of America, and we can talk about that. But the top hosting countries, Turkey has taken in 2.5 million refugees. Pakistan has taken in 1.6 million refugees. Lebanon has taken in 1.1 million refugees. Iran has taken in close to 1,976,000. Ethiopia, 736,000, and Jordan, 664,000. Those are the top hosting countries. And again, we're not on that list, Jim.
No. There is another list, though, of people that send, as they say, money, because they'd rather send money than really care for the people. I really think so. That's number 6, John. What do you got?
That seems to be an easy out in my estimation, but the money is still necessary. UN High Commissioner for Refugees assists millions of people providing water, sanitation, protection, advocacy, transportation, healthcare, and income-generating projects. And the top donors to this United Nations Commission are the USA, the European Union, Japan, Germany, Sweden, Norway, the Netherlands, Denmark, and Australia.
What's interesting on the positive side that you may remember from the 2016 Olympics, for the first time in history, 10 refugee athletes from 4 distinct countries competed not from their country of being banished or refugee from, but under the banner of the International Olympic Committee. Which brings up something about Fresno. What statistic do we have about Fresno?
So I know there's a lot in the news right now about refugees coming to Fresno. It's a very small number, but we have to remember that Fresno was actually number 1 in California in the former refugee crisis for Southeast Asians. 33,000 Hmongs were resettled in Fresno, 9,000 Cambodians, 10,000 Laotians, and 5,000 Vietnamese individuals.
And finally, John, there is something to be mentioned about Central America and Mexico, where there are many refugiados.
One of the most close to my heart involving children. And in the past 3 years, again, amazing figures, 165,000 unaccompanied immigrant children, many fleeing from violence from El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, and Mexico, have been apprehended along the U.S.-Mexican border. And in the past year, 7,000 of these children were reunited with a sponsor in California, and several hundred have been reunited with a sponsor right here in our own Central Valley.
So what's important about this crisis that we want to share with you for the next couple of months is to see it globally and see it locally, but especially see what we can do about it. At this point, I'd like to show a clip from Catholic Relief Services. The clips we're going to use in this program for the next 2 months all come gratis from Catholic Relief. This one is called I Am Migration, and I think it'll give us something to think about for the next minute. Joe, can you play that clip?
With 65 million refugees and displaced people worldwide, the refugee crisis is the worst in human history. Last year, 24 people fled their homes every minute because of conflict or persecution. They carry only what fits into a backpack. Leaving means spending their life savings and gambling with their lives. Today's refugees will be displaced for an average of 17 years. And if we ignore their plight, it will be even longer before they have a place to call home.
Sometimes 1 minute of visual, well introduced and also commented, can say much more than a half-hour program. What I most enjoyed about that at the end is a very interesting comment. I am the cause. I am the solution. I am migration. I wonder if we could address for a few moments before the break what reaction you may have to that clip or to any of these staggering figures, because in the second half we're going to be talking about how we're addressing them. Any response to what is the phenomenon across the globe?
In my own personal situation, I think it's film clips like this, knowing some of the statistics, really is what has gotten me passionate about this, that the need is so great. And yes, the cause and the solution lay with us, I think. And I think, Reza, when you made the comment about, sadly, we don't have, the USA is lagging behind in terms of bringing these people in and helping them. We have been given such a blessing by God. We have to share that blessing, and I see that as the most key issue here. We have so much, and we have so much to share. And as Pope Francis said, we need to get beyond just throwing money at situations. We need to get our hands dirty.
Speaking of Pope Francis, we're going to take our break right now, but we're going to hear from Pope Francis personally during the break. In his prayer for November, he made it that we in the world would support the efforts of countries that are working towards the end of the refugee crisis and show solidarity with them. One of his favorite words, to show solidarity. So as we take the break, listen to the Pope, and we'll be right back in 1 minute to continue our conversation. Stay tuned.
¿Puede un país afrontar por sí solo las dificultades que produce la emigración forzada? Debemos pasar de la indiferencia y del miedo a la aceptación del otro. Porque ese otro podría ser tú o yo. Súmate conmigo en esta petición. Que los países que acogen a gran número de refugiados y desplazados sean apoyados en su esfuerzo de solidaridad.
Hello again and welcome to the second part of our program on refugees according to Catholic Social Teaching 101. What we're going to do now in the second half of the program is have Reza and Deacon John share perhaps things that are going on, things that will be coming up, and things that we could invite you to participate in, because it's not enough that we see staggering, very, very sobering statistics, but that we rather commit to turn those numbers around and to find in our refugees among us brothers and sisters that we care for. So I wonder, Reza, if you wanted to begin by telling us anything about what the Islamic community has already done, which is maybe mentioning that wonderful walk, or then the event that we have coming up on December 10th.
Sure. So in addition to things like the walk that we're there to raise funds for people, the Islamic community is trying to stand up in different ways, trying to either gather funds, help particular families, items. But I think what we're more focusing on is trying to connect with other groups and organizations and consolidate efforts, so that way we're able to offer systemic changes for our new neighbors and new Fresnans, because when one family came, it was easy. When two families came, it was easy. And it's really a much more difficult thing to be able to do some of the things that we've been able to do on a grander scale as more of our families are coming and becoming Fresno residents. So I think we're just looking for ways to consolidate, to bring people together, and to develop programs to help educate our new Fresnans, to help bring them into the culture, bring them into what it is to be here, whether that be with language, whether that be with computer literacy or job training, or helping connect people with other people who have services or have the ability to help. So I think right now we're still just trying to figure out what does it mean to help on a broader scale, and not just here's a donation. You can give that, but we got to get our hands dirty, John.
Yeah.
That's what you said, right?
Yes.
And I think the only way we get our hands dirty is helping develop programs so that when people come here, that they are able to work towards, that famous American dream, the ability to go be self-sustaining and develop a future for their families.
What a perfect segue to what I know John can share at this point. You do want to begin with one family, only because right now we do have a family that we know by name. We have had them at our church. John, tell us about the Kazakhs.
Well, it all began really with the walk in September, where I met the family, and we began talking about their needs, and I began expressing our willingness and our desire to step into this arena, because we never have before. And so I asked them to please come to our parish, and their spokesman came, Kamal, and he came 2 weeks ago. He came to two of our masses, two services, and they were so well received by my congregation, our faith family, that it brought me to tears, and it brought them to tears as well. At one point, they were given a standing ovation. They were standing in front of our altar, and I got a standing ovation from our parishioners. And of course, I kind of broke down, and the mother of the family was so touched. She said, it's amazing here. We are people from a different country. We speak a different language. We have a different faith. They don't know us, and yet they're showing us so much love. Mm. To me, that spoke volumes. This is what we're here for. This is what we are called to do. As Christians, we are called to follow Christ, to be his disciples, and do as he did. So what this has done is has led us to trying to find a list of needs, really getting into the particulars. And thus far, we've been able, I know this family would like to begin a small kind of cottage industry with maybe a little catering and baking. And so the parishioners we have provided food processors for them and some meat grinders to help them process food. We're at this point trying to help them with clothing issues and lodging issues. I've gotten phone calls. My phone's coming off the hook from parishioners, from professional people. One of the children needs dental work. Wow. And so we have a dentist who's coming forward to help them with that. And the list is just endless. It has been just truly remarkable. And I find that I think for the first time, we have so many ministries that we do, but I really feel a passion here. We've and we're going to walk before we run. I think it's important. Yeah. But I've felt that this is the first family of, I'm hoping, many that we can help.
We're celebrating Advent, in which we're asked not only to remember when the Lord came, but also to be finding the Lord present among us and to be expecting the Lord's return. Well, let's see a clip now, again from Catholic Relief Services, so you can use this in your own ministries. Just go to the website, crs.org. This one is about the Holy Family. Let's watch this beautiful clip, and then we'll have Reza being able to comment both on what Deacon John said and perhaps something from the film. So, Joe, can you play Holy Family?
You can see they're emotionally at the kind of end of their rope, and they're just reaching out for kind of as their last gasp, like, please, can you help me? I am in Victoria Square in Athens, Greece, surrounded by Syrian refugees and refugees from a whole bunch of other countries. They were living a normal life. They were doing normal jobs, many of them, and then something happened, things fell apart, and here they are. After really a perilous journey across from Turkey, and the first people they're meeting are staff from Caritas Athens who speak their language and are giving them information about how they can get basic services, and are getting it with a smile and with love and concern. There's a soup kitchen on the second floor of the Caritas Athens facility, and it reminded me exactly of our daily bread in Baltimore. Wonderful volunteers offering warmth, hospitality, and well-cooked, prepared, kind of home-feeling food to people who really have not had that kind of meal in quite some time. Lots of Catholic organizations are coming together, and it's kind of like this point in the funnel where all this love and concern are coming through and pouring out for the refugees. And it really is an incredible demonstration of the Catholic community coming together.
الان که احساس خوب میکنم میگم خورده خوب شدیم جنگ نیست بچهای ما یک لقمه نان میتن شکمشان سیر میشه میگه الان یه خورده احساس خوبی میکنیم خوش هستیم.
She just told me that she loves me.
We met a Syrian family in Macedonia in this transit camp, and the woman had just given birth 3 days before to her 6th child. And I just kept thinking that we had helped provide the room at the inn. And here we are in Advent, we're thinking about the Holy Family, about Jesus, about Mary, and here was our modern-day Mary giving birth, and not in the manger, but in an inn that is a transit camp that we've really helped to improve. They are human beings like we are, most of whom were living regular, normal lives that suddenly changed for circumstances that had nothing to do with them and now are on the road. And we could be in the same position one day, and we need to do everything we can with the view that, but for the grace of God, goeth us.
Dahan.
I've seen that, and every time I tear up. It's not only because of the Advent motif, not only because of the circumstance of something actually bringing that text of Jesus being born as a refugee himself, being in an occupied land, being displaced, needing to flee for his life, but to know it happens over and over and over. And then you wonder, what can we do about it? What is it that we as people of faith are going to do? Reza, you have certain initiatives that you're working on your committee, on our committee. Tell us something about what can be done about human rights and about the refugee situation.
So I sit with Jim on the Human Rights Coalition of the Central Valley, and what we try to do is highlight a different angle of human rights every year to commemorate on December 10th. And this year, what we've decided to do is highlight the issue of refugees around the world, Syrian, Palestinian, Hmong, from South America, and we will be getting together at Fresno State, and we invite everybody to come. They can find out more at humanrightscv.com, and hopefully they come out and educate themselves, so that way these stories don't just touch you and me, it can touch them as well. Jim.
John, final thought?
Well, I was going to say I had neglected or forgotten to mention that the family that we are helping were very successful people in Syria. Owned their own business, a beautiful home. In an instant, it was blown off the map. And for 3 years, they've been wandering. And here, without education for their children, without the proper nutrition, I would imagine in many cases. And so now they're here. And I think as people of God, I've said this before, we are commissioned by Jesus as our leader to do for them as we would for our own. And it's amazing how we have begun to begin this process, and I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to every step that we take.
I can see it. I can hear it in the phone call this morning. I want to thank Reza and Deacon John for sharing from their faith the commitment that we all need to take up. This is our chance. It doesn't have to be only with money either. Go to crs.org and you will see certain ways to help. But becoming knowledgeable and sharing this in your faith community, that's going to be more important. Till next week, God bless.